I love it when we actually get some genuine surprises out here for the meta. Make sure you guys smash the balloon crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more on us. We're here with the Next Play Weekly. 33 people this week, and holy crap, take a moment to look at how crazy this chart is right now, because normally the meta distribution of these events is a lot more even, but there were almost half of the playing field here. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but when you look at that Fire King half of that chart, that's a little bit insane, actually. That proves to me that Fire King is doing some things that, well, I mean, this is what happens when you literally design a ban list to tip the scales in Fire King's favor. But, I mean, once again, hey, budget players can actually eat well out here and at least get the chance to play. Now, on the follow-up here, you only had 2 Rescue Ace decks. Keep in mind, Emergency is limited to 1, and the fact that we are seeing Emergency, tip those scales, even as a 1-of and still be a good card, is amazing. And we had 2 Pendulum Magician-esque decks showing up here as well. Now, everything else that we're going to talk about here is a 1-of, all right? So, 17 of your field, all right? Well, yeah, 17 of the field was 2 and higher. Everything else is a 1-of. So that's going to include Heroes, Adamantipator, Veilance, Exosister. I don't recognize one of those. We had Branded, don't recognize, Voiceless, Runic, looks like Snake Eyes, Salamangreat, and then a couple more I don't recognize, except for Fallen of Albaz, Rika, and we had a Ritual Beast deck sitting here as well. So, I mean, this is typically your standard-sized local event here, where you have all of these people trying to bring all of these different meta, decks to the event, trying to see, hey, am I going to be the lucky one today to break the mold? Now, top cut here is pretty interesting, actually, because this, out of all of those Fire King duelists that were here, for whatever reason, only 2 of them were able to climb the apex and make it into that top cut, which is a crazy loss of turnover here. Like, I'm genuinely impressed with how much they were able to lose on that transitional phase on into top cut. So, the mighty Fire King, the strongest deck in the meta, had 13 duelist in her. Only 2 of them managed to cross on over into the top cut. But I mean, let's look at the 1-ups here that challenged, the tier 0 Fire King Supremacy. Rescue Ace. I'm gonna say this. Even with Emergency limited to 1 in the OCG, they are still finding success out here with Rescue Ace, all right? For the people that are throwing away the deck in the TCG because, we have a certain card at 1, it doesn't matter. People are still playing this deck, and it is getting results, all right? You just got to be a little bit smarter, and you can't play the deck as necessarily brain dead as you were before, and that's a big real thing to consider out here. And then, of course, Flamberge Dragon, aka Snake Eyes. Let's call it what it is. The deck is effectively it's taking advantage of the fire stuff. It does the same thing that the Fire King package is able to do. It actually plays Snake Eyes Ash and all that garbage as well. It still splits apart, still sets up these troublesome cards on your opponent, and then your opponent's forced to look at it and go, I don't have outs to this. Like, I can't do things about this. Now, interestingly enough, over here, we had Fallen of Albaz sitting here as well. I'm genuinely impressed that Fallen of Albaz had a chance to kind of show up here and do its thing. It does prove that, like, the deck is pretty strong when it needs to be. I also see that we have some Veilance good stuff up here as well. Veilance being a deck in the OCG is always a very interesting thing to see. They can do some nasty OTK things that the TCG necessarily can't abuse. And then, of course, we had Astrograph, Sorcerer, and friends up here as well. But overall, like, this top cut is crazy when you're looking at your conversion data from the very early stages of this tournament. And that's why, like, it's crazy to think about some of these things. Let's pass on over to top deck list. Nobody's surprise, Fire Kings ended up coming out on top. And I mean, like, this is still the same standard stuff that we're used to seeing. The triple Karen, the one Garunix, the one copy of, pretty much everything else that you want. You have double Populus to get the filtering package going. You do see the one cross out, the double copies of Called by the Grave. Actually, I want to say the fact that they're able to kind of cheese in all of this little extra value into the deck turns this deck into a massive monster along the way, and it's actually pretty good to see. Also, this build is citing triple copies of Soul Release. Take a moment to appreciate how degenerate a format has to be now that you can play triple Soul Release, get away with it, and you put your opponent in this massive destruction hole that they're not going to be able to kind of recover from. Also, I love the fact they're playing triple anti-spell fragrance. Triple anti-spell means I don't have to lose to Soul Release. All right, that's a hilarious thing. Next up is our Veilance pile, as we're going to see here, which means the standard thing that I know that this board always ends on is there's always a Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo that's going to be involved off of a Gallant Granite search, and then your opponent somehow has to find a way to out that. Now, I also see that this build is playing a Link into the Brains, which is a actually kind of cool tech choice, I suppose. I believe this is meant to try to help you, set up and be fine. But, at the end of the day, you're still playing, the cheese Veilance OTKs. Also, once again, there's that triple Soul Release. That's how you can tell the format continues down this garbage path. Oh, man. Outside of that, I still don't fully know how the craziness of this deck interacts. I know you do field spell shenanigans. Secret Village is typically involved. And then, like I said, the Fossil Dino lock at the end just really destroys your opponent. Good stuff. Next up here, we had, our other Fire King deck managed to make it into third place. That's crazy to think about out here, that this deck had that much turnover and consistency. Now, this build is playing just 2 Kieran instead of 3. They decided that they wanted to play the Oak instead, which is fine. There's the double Poppius that we're pretty used to seeing at this point, and then, of course, one cross-out double Called by the Grave. I don't think anybody's going to challenge those ratios, even though the TCG might try to cheese out some interesting little things. Now, this build also only played 1 Soul Release versus the 3 that we're seeing, but this build also chose to play a Heavy Storm and a Change of Heart. So I do suppose that those are some pretty free blowout cards. And we're also doing double anti-spell fragrance for this list. A lot more on the, I would say, standard side of things that you're kind of seeing here. You want to see as much value as I feel like you can for something like this, but good stuff, honestly. List is pretty straightforward. Okay. Next up is 60 card. I kid you not. Tier Elements. This is just the Albaz storyline deck at this point. All right, like somebody said, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use all the Fallen of Albaz, good stuff. We're going to put Grass Looks Greener in our deck. That way we can cheese some free victories along the way. And I mean, realistically, they did get to probably steal some games. I don't see any reason as to why they would not have been able to, get some free victories off of some BS resolution of power cards, and then your opponent's just sitting there going, what in the world is actually going on here? Well, this is a typical result of, Grass goes terminal, you have your 3-tier monsters, you see those depending on what else you get a free board off of a card, or, you get ashed. All right, like that's kind of where I'm sitting right now with the idea of that. So very, very interesting. And of course, we have a hero deck list that finished 3-2, barely missing the cutoff. But I've been seeing a lot of this level 6 hero stuff showing up in the OCG. So I try to toss these lists in when we can to, go, hey, contrary to what every hero player was thinking with the initial card, and, how we were all very harsh on it, the little Karibo has been seeing a lot of play. The little guy has been making his rounds in these profiles, and he's doing good, which means players are looking to him right now going, hey, there is a huge chance that you want to play this card. It helps out your strategy. Yeah, I know, right? A Karibo card helping out a hero deck. Really good. Also do see that we are playing the Elemental Protection. We are playing a Soul Release. A lot more of the standard good stuff that you're used to seeing out here. So, what do you think about today's breakdown from the Next Play event? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Stay safe out there, right? Patrons! Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.